Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia and today I want to talk about... What do I want to talk about? Today I want to talk about Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This is a novel from 1979 and it's a time travel story. In Kindred we follow Dana, who's a young black writer who's just moved into a new house with her husband and leads a perfectly ordinary life when she suddenly finds herself ripped away from her own living room and waking up again in a strange field next to a river. Immediately she notices a small red-headed boy drowning in the water, and so she jumps in to save him, only to then find herself be threatened with a shotgun by a white man. But before she has any idea of what's going on, she finds herself back home, shaken and confused. And this keeps happening. The next time she's transported away, she sees that same boy again, this time with the curtains of his bedroom on fire. Once again she saves him, and this time she figures out what's going on. Because somehow, completely against her will, she's time-travelled back to the year 1815 and finds herself on a plantation in Maryland. And the little boy, Rufus, is the son of the owner. The only other black people this little boy knows are enslaved, and Dana realizes very quickly that she too is in danger. The book continues to follow her as she travels back and forth between her present day in the 1970s and the past, traveling across the centuries without having any control over it. And she realizes that it's this little boy Rufus who keeps drawing her back for increasingly longer periods. And she does, of course, everything she can to return to her normal life. This is one of those books that's so hard to review because of how hard it is to classify and to categorize it. It's a time travel story, but it doesn't read like science fiction. It does not play with all of the common tropes and story beats of time travel narratives that we are familiar with from science fiction. It's historical fiction, but the protagonist is a modern-day woman. It's a story of slavery, but it's told through the medium of time travel. As a concept, this is absolutely bonkers. As a novel, it's perfectly executed. Butler doesn't get caught up in the mechanics of time travel. We don't know how Dana travels back into her ancestors' past. It just happens to her. And this unpredictability makes it all the more terrifying. She does figure out why, or at least has some theories as to why, but everything is natural and organic and therefore really very scary. The story itself is unpredictable as well. It's brutal. It plays with the reader. Just as you think it's going to go in one direction, the book tears you into a completely different one. This is a book that has you on the edge of your seat all the way through because you know the author is not messing about. Anything could happen to absolutely anyone at any point, and you just don't know. This sense of dread is visceral, and it's one of the main motivations of the protagonist as well, because she finds herself in a time and place that wants her dead, and without any control over how to get away from it. The only thing she has to rely on is her own wits. What we're seeing here is Octavia E. Butler treating history with respect. And what I mean by that is that she doesn't make it pretty and digestible. She certainly doesn't whitewash. She doesn't gently take you by the hand and guide you through the cruelty and inhumanity of slavery. Just like Dana, you're plunged right into it. Nothing is held back. I adore how Butler writes characters in all of her books, but in this one in particular. She writes them with such nuance and detail and understanding of characters as people. She writes them as people who are belonging to their time. Dana is an incredible protagonist because she's so very clearly an average woman of the 1970s. She's not a historian, she's not a natural superhero character. She doesn't travel back in time armed with any specific knowledge about the period, but she makes sure that as soon as she has the opportunity to learn, she does. She arms herself with knowledge in any way that she can, by talking to people, by reading books. Because remember, even the modern day of the 1970s is pre-internet. She does everything she can to survive and uses every situation to her advantage. But she doesn't do this with a desire to play the hero. She's exceptionally quick on her feet. She's very good at reading people, at understanding them, and at adapting to any given situation. She's determined, she's quick-witted. You get the strong impression that if she was even just a tick less determined and quick-witted, she would struggle to make it past the first few pages of this book. Most of this book is set in the past, and the characters from the past are so rooted in their reality that at first they almost feel like aliens to the modern reader, with their lives, their motivations, their beliefs, their way of thinking so far removed from our own. But the more we get to know them, and the more Dana gets to know them, we suddenly find ourselves acclimatizing to them, and that is done so beautifully well. There is so much nuance in this portrayal of history. Often, when I read historical fiction, I'm struck by a sense of disconnect, by stories that read like the author has taken a modern character with all of the things we consider admirable qualities in a modern character and then plunged them in history and tries to convince us that this is definitely a person that was born in the 18th century. That's 100% how they would act and think. Butler doesn't do that, not with her historical characters. She manages to balance that line between showing how incredibly different people were in the early 19th century, but at the same time shows them as recognizably people. Humans, not aliens. This isn't a book that shows the slavery of the 18th and 19th century as something foreign and unthinkable, in an outraged, how could this ever happen kind of a way. It's meticulously researched, but it doesn't read like a school book. It's a very fine line to portray violence as real without, I don't want to say glamorizing it, but without using it for the shock factor. At the same time, the violence in the book is shocking. It is hard to read. Somehow Butler manages that by portraying violence and inhumanity and torture in a way that doesn't glamorize it, but doesn't normalize it, that is shocking, but that doesn't fetishize it. I hope that makes sense. It absolutely stands up to the test of time. I think this is a book that will be talked about. It's an absolute masterpiece of storytelling. And I don't use that word lightly. It's a story that grips you right from the very first page and doesn't let you go even after you finished it. So this is a book that I would absolutely recommend to anyone who can stomach the issues raised in it. It's graphic, it's violent, it's horrible. So just be aware of those things. You can look up trigger lists online as well for this specific book. But if you can, I would absolutely very highly recommend this book to anyone. This doesn't read like a book that was written nearly 50 years ago. It is absolutely standing the test of time, and I think this is going to be a classic that will endure. This video is part of my 12 Decades of Christmas series of book review videos, in which I talk about one book from each decade from the 1900s to the 2010s. Kindred was published in 1979, so that's the 8th video in my series, and you can find the whole playlist with all of the review videos linked in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!